We begin tonight with a shocking immigration matter where Nigerian Nobel Laureate Professor Wole Soyinka has been banned from entering the United States. Soyinka announced the development on Tuesday when he revealed that the U.S. government has revoked his non-immigrant visa, denying him temporary access into the country. According to the Nobel Laureate, the U.S. consulate informed him of the revocation in a letter dated October the 23rd, 2025, without providing a clear reason for the action. He noted that he was unaware of any wrongdoing that could have warranted the revocation. The United States has in recent times taken steps to curb the influx of migrants into the country. Our reactions have begun to trail the revocation of Wole Soyinka's U.S. visa. Now, rights activist Omoyele Sowore has expressed disappointment, describing the action as sad. Sowore's reaction followed Soyinka's revelation that the U.S. government had withdrawn his visa, effectively preventing him from entering the country. Sowore joins the growing list of Nigerians who have criticized the act by the United States, which they describe as an unnecessary diplomatic embarrassment. I'm being joined by an immigration lawyer, Joseph Babalola, to help with some clarifications on the likely reasons for the visa ban. Professor Wole Soyinka, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Babalola. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, the U.S. consulate says Soyinka's visa was revoked because, well, additional information became available, according to how they put it, after it was issued. But it didn't specify what exactly that means. So from a legal standpoint, how transparent does the U.S. visa revocation process need to be? And are individuals like Soyinka entitled to know the exact ground for such a decision?
A very good question. All the grounds actually for B1, B2 visas, which is actually what Professor Soyinka has, is actually contained within what you call the FAM, which is the Foreign Manual of the United States. Now, if and when a visa is actually revoked, it's actually within the discretion of the United States government. The only ground that I can see, because I've absolutely reviewed it, the Foreign Advisory Manual, is governmental policy. Now, if his visa was revoked based on governmental policy, there are three steps. The first one is notification, which means he needs to be notified. The second one is that they will give him time to actually apply back to the embassy, stating reasons why his visa should not be revoked. And then the third thing is a decision, right, based on all the accounts. So I do believe that this will be resolved eventually, and eventually he will probably be made aware of the reasons why his visa was actually revoked.
Mr. Babalola, these are supposed to be executive or consular, at executive or consular discretion, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, meaning they can be made unilaterally without appeal. So how much discretion does a consular officer actually have in revoking a visa that's already been granted from many years from before? And what limits, if any, exists?
Well, the thing is that the embassies and the consulates, you know, the United States consulates, they have tremendous amount of power. And the Department of State, which kind of oversees them, gives them the latitude to make individual decisions in various countries based on the grounds that they deem fit, right, to be correct. So in most instances, when they make these decisions, the Department of State will not necessarily interfere with those. But the overarching consideration is governmental policy, in the sense that there are times when the decision actually to revoke or not to revoke actually comes from the United States government. And this is actually sent pro forma to all embassies around the world.
Okay, so this isn't just any traveler. I mean, we're talking about Africa's first Nobel laureate for literature, a global cultural figure. Could a case like this carry diplomatic or symbolic weight beyond immigration law?
It does. And most of the time, you know, there are various channels that's actually being pulled. Even currently right now, I'm sure that the government is actually having conversations, you know, behind the scenes with the embassy to try and find ways in which this could be resolved. I do believe that Eventually, Professor Wole Soyinka, being a man of an international stature, eventually the visa that was actually revoked is going to be reinstituted, and he will probably be able to come to the United States. And it's also important that he was actually slated to actually have an event, in the United States, and because of this revocation, he can't attend anymore. So I do believe that this is a diplomatic row, and I believe that it will be smoothing over eventually.
Mr. Babalola, I'm worried. I'm worried whether as a citizen myself, if I should be worried. I mean, Soyinka says he's content with the revocation and that he won't reapply, but most people in that situation wouldn't have that luxury. Some people need these visas for education, career paths. It could be stalled when these revocations happen. So what recourse, if any, does an ordinary visa holder have when their U.S. visa is suddenly revoked without clear explanation? Can such a decision be challenged or reviewed?
It can. And there are various ways in which you can actually challenge it. I'll give you specifics. I had a couple of clients whose visa was revoked. I think it was a couple of months back. I'm sure you remember, who had F1 visas. This was something that was fought in court, and eventually the decision actually to revoke all these visas was actually withdrawn. The same way, with B1, B2s. B1, B2s are discretionary in the sense that B1 and B2 visas are visitors for pleasure, visitors for business. And if you're a visitor for pleasure, it's at the discretion, right, of the consulate to actually make sure that that visa is actually given to you, and you have to maintain the grounds for which you actually applied for it. So for instance, if you have situations in which after the visa is issued to you, maybe you commit a crime, or you do things that actually causes the United States government to be able to review you as a security risk, then your visa could be revoked. But there are ways in which you can actually challenge, right, the revocation in a way that it will be installed back to you.
Okay, and the U.S. recently shortened visa validity periods for Nigerians, if you remember. Now that this case raises eyebrows about, well, let's say, consistency and fairness, do you see this as part of a larger tightening of U.S. immigration policy toward Nigerians for whatever reason that might have been or not have been, or more likely a maybe one-off incident handled poorly in communication? Or was this based off of something that Soyinka could have done, because he also made reference to a comment that he made about the U.S. presidents from I think his past administration? What do you think?
Well, I believe that, based on so many things that is happening globally, I really don't want to see Nigeria as an exception, but I'll say globally. There's a lot that is going on globally because I'm a global immigration attorney, so I have a way of looking at things from a global perspective. One, Nigeria, like is the giant of Africa, and I believe that we have a huge megaphone. Anything that is said in Nigeria by a man with the stature of Professor Wole Soyinka will have a huge reverberation right around the world. So once he makes a statement, right, they take it very, very seriously. And sometimes, people could take, offense to these things. So it's important that, if and when we state things, that we state it very, very clearly. I believe there's a communication issue. I believe that if and when things are stated, right, we need to soften, right, try to soften the way in which it's actually delivered and make our intentions very, very clear. There is no gainsaying the fact that Professor Wole Soyinka has contributed globally, right, to the world of literature and on art. And a man of his caliber should not be in this situation. I believe that he has communication consultants, and those ones should be very busy right now engaging, right, with the embassy and the consulate to make sure that this is actually resolved, and it will be resolved. I'm very confident of that.
Mr. Babalola, let's take a little, I'd like you to please just hang on a second. I've still got one question for you, but I'd like us to take a brief listen to the Laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka himself here.
Myself guilty of. In all the years, decades I've been going to the United States. So obviously, it could not have been. I don't believe that they would have dug so far back into my murky past to unearth these two great crimes and then revoke my visa. So the reason had to be somewhere else. So I began to cast what have I done in recent times? Then my mind went to Oscar Arias, the former president of Costa Rica, I think Costa Rica, Arias, the Peace Nobel Laureate, whose visa also was revoked. And why was his visa revoked? Because he said that Donald Trump was ruling like an emperor. It served him right. I mean, how be calling the whole president of the United States an emperor? That was not very nice. So I looked to see whether I had committed any similar crime. And I remembered that I referred to him as the white version of Idi Amin. Now, you know, dictators are very difficult to please. I would have thought that he was pleased. I mean, Idi Amin was a man of international stature, a statesman, a first-class Democrat, you know. He was also, he called himself the King of Scotland. He called himself a liberator. He said, in fact, he was going to liberate Scotland from the grip of the British. In other words, we should look at...
So, Mr. Babalola, you heard there, first off, he laid antecedents for Trump's actions or the U.S. actions in revoking visas. He also remembers that he did call the United States president a white version of Idi Amin. So, it's been decades now. Nigerian scholars, artists, and also students, they've seen the U.S. visas as gateways or gateways to global collaborations and visas. But here, when a high-profile figure like Wole Soyinka faces revocation, I'm wondering what you think the ripple effects might be that this would have on Nigerians' intellectual community. Could it dampen academic or maybe even cultural exchange with the U.S.? Do you see this happening from now on?
No, I really don't think so. I listened very carefully to what Professor Soyinka said. You know, he said all these things in jest, really. I really don't think that he actually meant, you know, all the things that he was talking about. Like, you know, Professor Soyinka is extremely brilliant. You know, everyone around the world, especially in the United States, you know, we look up to him, you know, when it comes to, you know, areas of arts and areas of literature and the whole nine. But be that as it may, it has all these things that is actually going on could have an effect, right, on international exchange of ideas. I do believe it could. But at the same time, I believe that we, you know, either in the legal community or those of us, you know, either in government or any other thing like that, we have a responsibility to resolve issues. And I believe that these issues could be resolved. I believe that words have effect. And sometimes, if and when these words are actually spoken, it could have the wrong effect as well. So I do believe that this should be taken into consideration if and when we're actually either criticizing or trying to say things that could come across, you know, in a very wrong or unintended way. But all in all, I do believe that there are ways to resolve this. And I believe that this revocation is not going to last.
All right, then.
And eventually, I do believe that his visa will be reinstated.
Well, Mr. Joseph Babalola, I want to say thank you very much for joining us all the way from Georgia. Now, please don't go saying anything in jest about the U.S. president now. Thank you very much, sir.
I will not. I promise you, I will not.
Coming up tonight, resident doctors seek audience with President Tinubu, urge him to address their demands. Details of this and more when we get back from the short break. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories now. U.S. government revokes non-immigrant visa of Nigerian Nobel Laureate Wole Soyinka, asks him to reapply for access into the country. Emir of Kano Mohammed Sanusi II warns ministers to speak truth to power, says sycophancy is bane of Nigeria's leadership crisis. Coming up, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu orders military attacks in Gaza, alleges Hamas violated ceasefire deal. The National Association of Resident Doctors has written to President Bola Tinubu seeking his direct intervention over the non-implementation of its 19-point demands. In a letter, the association warned that Nigeria's health system is on the brink of collapse, citing unpaid salary arrears, failure to implement the consolidated medical salary structure, and poor welfare conditions for doctors. NARD insists its members are only asking for the basic entitlements earlier promised by the government. The association has threatened to begin an indefinite nationwide strike from November 1st if the issues remain unresolved. To national security now, the Nigerian Senate has resolved to screen and confirm on Wednesday, October 29, the newly appointed service chiefs. Now, this comes as Nigeria is removed alongside South Africa from the Financial Action Task Force grey list. The development, lawmakers say, will restore international confidence in Nigeria's commitments to strengthening its anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing system. News Central's National Assembly correspondent Sagir Ibrahim has the story here.
Lawmakers settle in to begin the first plenary of the week. As the preliminaries conclude, Benue North East lawmaker Emmanuel Dende moved a motion of urgent public importance, commending the executive, the president of the Senate, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, and other stakeholders for their efforts in ensuring Nigeria's removal from the FATF grey list. The motion passed without objection.
This singular act certainly will boost investor confidence and reassure the international community of Nigeria's renewed commitment to transparency, accountability, and global financial standards. The listing of Nigeria will also go a long way in giving our anti-corruption agencies full participation in the fight against corruption in the Committee of Nations.
Try and buy a property in London, you are being asked all sorts of questions. But from this morning, no such question arises again, because we are not found wanted. We are not wanted at all. We are not found guilty of any misappropriation or financial undoing.
All prayers in the motion were adopted, including one mandating the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes to sustain legislative oversight and strengthen Nigeria's financial governance framework. Meanwhile, the Senate has scheduled the screening of newly appointed service chiefs following a presidential letter read by the Senate President.
Distinguished colleagues, this is referred to the Committee of the Whole for immediate consideration, and in view of the appointment of the Chief of Defense Staff, I plead with distinguished senators to reconsider and clear all of them, and then confirm them all at the same time, so that they can go straight and start work, so that we don't leave any gap in security. Is it the view of the Senate? Those in support say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate also confirmed Abubakar Yelwa for a second term as Managing Director of N-Hyperdeck, approved 6 new commissioners for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, and passed 6 House bills for concurrence in line with inter-chamber reciprocity. From the National Assembly Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
For this conversation and other discussions on national security, I am now joined by Dr. Awal Aliyu, Deputy National Coordinator of Retired Members of Nigerian Armed Forces. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Good to have you here, Dr. Aliyu. Dr. Aliyu, President Tinubu's meeting with the new security chiefs is being read as a move to stamp authority and set expectations from day one. it could be seen the tone has just changed, and there are other speculations why this was so. But what does this say about the tone and direction the president intends to set for Nigeria's security architecture?
You know, the responsibility of every president, including that of Nigeria, is the protection of life and property of Nigeria and Nigerians. And as a commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, it is his duty bound to ensure that everything is working the way it is expected in Nigeria, and everybody is working in line with his thinking, with his policies, the policies of his administration. That is not to say that the immediate past service chiefs didn't do what is expected of them, but also it is natural for every president, including that of Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to realign and rejig the security sector at any given time, because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended in 1999, gave him such powers to appoint and to remove at any time he so wish, for whatever reason he wants to do so. So now that he has brought in new service chiefs, he had meetings with them, and he has also told them his line of thinking, and they are all aware of the security challenges we are facing in Nigeria. They are in the system, they are part of the system, they are not new to the system, they are part of the working team that is finding a solution to Nigeria's security challenges. So he has just done what is usual. There's nothing unusual about what the president did in reshuffling the high security armed forces echelon, and then bringing in new thinking, new vigor, new valor, new life into it. Not to say that the ones that were there, I repeat, that they didn't perform, no. But it is a constitutional provision. It is the prerogative of the president. And in any case, the new chief of defense staff, who was the chief of army staff, who was the commandant of infantry center and school, and who was also a theater commander, is highly professional and highly experienced. He's part of the team. He's only been moved forward from the position of chief of army staff to that of the chief of defense staff. He has been part of the team that is working on security. He is now going to lead a new team that will be working on the security. And as chief of army staff, the armed forces itself is reliant on the land army. It's the largest in number, and also the mother of the armed forces. So he is coming from a home where he has known it all, he has seen it all, he has the experience as the service chief, and you also know what he did as chief of army staff. He's brought on new vigor, new valor. He has brought in a lot of life. He has revigorated the Nigerian army. He has, tried to look into the welfare of the soldiers. He has made their morale high. He has made them to be more committed to the job. That is the land army now, the Nigerian army. So becoming the chief of defense staff, he's only going to build on what he has started as the chief of army staff, and then to consolidate it among the tri-service, now the Air Force, Navy, and the Army. And of course, those that were brought to the Army, the new chief of army staff, is also coming from the theater command.
Just a second, I don't want you to go too far. Vigor, valor, life, new invigoration, you say, but you also noted that there's nothing unusual, but many people argue that, well, considering the timing and the many unconfirmed rumors, that there might be something other than what we're seeing. But then again, let's talk about the changes. Now, these changes at the top, they often bring sometimes confusion, depending on how they're being managed. How much can leadership reshuffles like what we have just seen at this level actually influence operational performance and troops' morale across the force?
Well, in most cases, you realize that it is a natural thing in the armed forces. You find reshufflements like this taking place. It's a natural thing in the armed forces, not a new thing. But the only thing that, and also it's in most cases reinvigorates the morale, like you rightly put, of the armed forces. But the only thing that may likely dampen the morale, if you like, or activities, is the fact that this rumor flying left, right, and center of a lot of officers being retired. I think that is really giving some certain level of jittery fear and discomfort.
What are these rumors that you have come across?
saying a certain number of senior military officers will be retiring because of the new appointment. That's part of things that if you go around and listen to the views of both the civilians and the serving military personnel, a lot of them, you find that that is where the discomfort is coming in. I think here the new chief of defense staff may even consider, just like his predecessor did, not retiring those that were even due or that are active now, but maybe pushing them to defense headquarters to work along with him and allowing the tri-service to work along with other officers that are of either course 40 or 41, but those that are being insinuated that belongs to course 39, just like the chief of defense intelligence and of course the new chief of defense staff himself, could be placed in under the defense headquarters to work there, because they are also well experienced, they are well versed, and then their knowledge is also required. Nigerians, and they are trained with taxpayers' money. And I also know that a lot of them have a lot to offer, a lot to give to the country in terms of service and experience. Just like I said, his predecessor, the outgoing chief of defense staff, General Sinji Musa, I think did that, and then that brought a lot of stabilization to the armed forces, and then and also it heightened the morale of those officers that were expected to leave the service, but because of his magnanimity that they were retained, and then you see there was a stability and also a lot of vigor, because they want to justify the reason why they were left to continue to serve. They want to justify it by putting in more of their best in ensuring that success is achieved. So I think that is the only thing that may dampen morale at a certain level. Otherwise, the changes give opportunity for those that are of course course 40 and course 41 to also come and contribute their own quota as far as the service to the nation is concerned. So, whatever rumor that is flying in, well, we should wait for the government to say whatever they want to say. Yes, there are a lot of insinuations going right and left and right, front and back, up and down, concerning the removal of the service chiefs and, of course, the placement with these new ones. And like I said, the armed forces is continuity. There's nothing new as far as the armed forces is concerned. It's continuity of service. The new service chief, the chief of naval staff, of course, was also serving in defense headquarters before he was taken to where he was brought in. The chief of army staff is being brought from theater command.
I've been trying to get you to but we have exhausted the time for this, allotted for this conversation. But we want to say thank you very much for giving us your expert opinion on the new service chiefs and their confirmation by the Senate. Thank you very much, Dr. Aliyu.
You are welcome, my pleasure.
Still ahead tonight, fresh reports alleges RSF responsible for mass killings in Sudan. We'll bring you that story and more after this break. Stay with us. Policymakers gathered for the Oxford Global Think Tank Leadership Conference aimed at advancing transformational leadership in Nigeria. Themed Better Leadership for a Better Nigeria, the forum coincides with Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary and explores pathways to ethical, visionary, and accountable governance. Speakers include OGTT founder Aruma Ote, former CBN governor and emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, financial minister Owale and Atedo Peterside, who shared insight on rebuilding trust and driving inclusive growth.
The most important aspect is the human side, the effect on people's daily experience. the cost of food, the cost of transport, how they are living their lives. And it is to that I think, rather than focusing on the various statistics, what I will say is that there is an attempt.
Even the man that you said was President Jonathan at the time had the good counsel to say, no matter what happens with Boko Haram and the rest of them, this is wise counsel, not just from the then SLS governor of CBN, from a great mind like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Everybody said this is the right thing.
But every time you spoke about the economy, it was seen as a personal attack against the president. And there are people around him who convinced him that this person is your enemy. That's why he's saying this. Okay. So we need to begin to ask as leaders, who do we surround ourselves with? And please, those who are ministers, or those who speak to the president, it is not to your benefit to turn yourselves, you disgrace yourselves, you debase yourselves by turning yourselves into praise singers.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Corruption and state capture is driving people.
A federal high court in Lagos has ordered the freezing of all bank accounts and assets belonging to Nest Oil Limited and Nekonde Energy Limited over $1 billion debt owed to FBN Quest Merchant Bank and First Trustees Limited. Presiding Judge Justice Deinde Dikbeolu issued a Marava injunction restraining the companies and their chairman, Ernest Ezudialu Obiejesi, from accessing or moving funds held in over 20 Nigerian banks and financial institutions. The court order dated October 22, 2025 also empowers Senior Advocate of Nigeria Abubakar Sulu Gambari as receiver manager to take over their offices in Victoria Island and the firm's stake in the OML 42 joint venture. According to court documents, the frozen funds and assets are valued at over $1 billion and 430 billion naira, representing debts owed as of September 2025. The case is expected to return to court on November 7 for further hearing. Outside Nigeria now, fresh reports has revealed that the fall of the Sudanese city of el-Fasher to the rapid response, or rather rapid support forces, has resulted in mass killings by the group. According to an analysis of satellite imagery viewed by Yale Humanitarian Research Lab, HRL, the RSF had laid siege to el-Fasher, the capital city of North Darfur in western Sudan, for more than a year and a half. Sudanese armed forces leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan announced the withdrawal of the forces from their last stronghold in the wider Darfur region late on Monday, a day after the paramilitary RSF seized control of the main Sudanese army base in el-Fasher and declared victory there. The RSF has long been accused of targeting non-Arab communities in Darfur, and the HRL, aid groups and experts have previously warned of mass violence and displacement if el-Fasher fell. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the military to carry out powerful attacks in Gaza. It comes after Netanyahu alleged Hamas committed a clear violation of the ceasefire deal. For its part, Gaza's government media office accused Israel of committing 125 violations of the ceasefire since it came into effect on October the 10th, including killing 94 Palestinians. The Palestinian group rejected any correction, or rather connection, to what Israel described as a shooting attack in Rafah in southern Gaza, which it used to justify the series of deadly airstrikes. Israeli media earlier reported an exchange of fire between Israeli forces and Hamas fighters in Rafah. Tonight returns with business, sports, and entertainment. Do stay with us.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Business now. Despite fiscal tightening, Nigeria's states have increased their debt burden, with average debt per capita rising from 40,469 naira in 2023 to 41,166 in 2024, according to Budget's latest state report. 12 states in loss and it exceeding the national average, each surpassing 100,000 naira per capita. Subnational liabilities reached naira 24 trillion in 2024, up from 1.19 trillion naira in 2023, while states repaid over $200 million in foreign debts and more than 2 trillion naira domestically. The report highlights ongoing fiscal strains and urged citizens to demand accountability for borrowed funds. Nigeria's Federal Inland Revenue Service has directed banks, stockbrokers, and financial institutions to deduct a 10% withholding tax on interest earned from short-term securities such as treasury bills, corporate bonds, promissory notes, and bills of exchange. Previously tax exempts to boost investors' return, these instruments will now face tax deductions at payment. However, interest on federal government bonds remain exempt. Investors will receive tax credits unless the deduction is a final tax. FIRS Executive Chairman Zach Adidiji warned that failure to comply could result in penalties and interest, underscoring the agency's enforcement commitment. Business News returns with market and sectorial performances after this break. Now, the Nigerian exchange, the NGX, closed slightly lower with the all-share index dipping by 0.09% to 155,353 points and market capitalization settling at 98.6 naira, that's 98.6 trillion naira. This reflects a cautious trading environment as investors continue to take profits, leading to a marginal decline in overall market value. Now, let's take a look at what's going on in the sectors here. Sectoral performance was mixed. The insurance sector led with a 1.15% gain, while oil and gas posted a modest 0.08% increase. In contrast, the banking sector declined by 0.66%. Consumer goods fell by 0.42% and industrial goods slipped by 0.25%, highlighting varied investor sentiment along key sectors. And that's all for business tonight, but let's have sports now, and Tunde's ready for us.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Hello and welcome to Sports. Reigning African champions, the Super Falcons of Nigeria, were held to a surprising 1-1 draw at home by Benin Republic in a 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. In a match played today at the MK Abiola Sports Arena in Abeokuta, Nigeria opened the scoring in the 12th minute with defender Ashley Plumpter heading home a corner kick. However, the Beninois drew level in the 62nd minute through Yasminat Jibril. The result means that the 10-time African champions progress on a 3-1 aggregate after winning the first leg 2-0. The Falcons will now defend their title at the next Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, which will hold from the 17th of March to the 3rd of April 2026. The top 4 teams in the competition will qualify for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup, which will be hosted by Brazil. Let's take a listen to Coach Justin Madugu of the Super Falcons, who was speaking after the game.
I want to say, for me, it didn't come so much as a surprise, because even in the press conference yesterday, we knew it was going to be a tough game. It was not going to be an easy game based on what we knew about the Beninois team.
Meanwhile, Rivers United head coach Finidi George has emphasized the need to strengthen both the attack and defense of his team ahead of the CAF Champions League group stage. Speaking exclusively to News Central, the former Super Eagles coach noted that key additions are crucial if the team is to compete effectively against some of Africa's top clubs. Finidi expressed confidence in his squad's potential, but admitted that greater depth and balance are essential to match the continent elite. We'll bring you all that and much more later on Gabon after the news. After more than 30 years away from a podium place on the world stage, Nigeria's taekwondo team has made a stunning comeback through Elizabeth Ayanacho's impressive run at the World Taekwondo Championships in Wuxi, China. Competing in the women's minus 67 kilogram category today, the African champion defeated Uzbekistan's Ozoda Zobrijonova in 2 tense rounds to reach the semifinals, but today she lost to Brazil's Mailina Titonelli, but secured a bronze medal for Nigeria, the nation's first in 32 years. Ayanacho was identified and mentored by Chika Chukwumerije, a former African champion and 2008 Olympic bronze medalist. The last Nigerian to win a World Championships medal was Emmanuel Ogenejebo, who won a bronze medal in the heavyweight class in 1993. And that's all we have on sports news. It's back to Mazino with the rest of the news.
And it's time for entertainment. Sam Dandy in the studio with me. Sam, what do we have inside the world of entertainment today?
Always buzzing. This one's an update, though. In an update to the alleged Pretty Mike drug bust story yesterday, the NDLEA has confirmed that the Lagos socialite's arrest was part of a larger sting at a club in Victoria Island where over 100 people were detained and nearly 385 kilograms of illegal substances were recovered. Reports also said BB star Toyo was involved, and in a twist, the former reality star alleged that he was brutalized by the NDLEA officers during the same raid, claiming he was beaten and humiliated despite not doing nothing wrong. Now, the NDLEA, however, insists the operation targeted a planned drug party, warning club owners that such events are illegal and will be met with strict actions. As investigations continue, this case is sparking serious conversations about law enforcement methods and nightlife culture in Lagos. Lagos socialite Pretty Mike is yet to post or make a public statement since the news broke. Kids, don't do drugs. But moving away from that one, hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs is set to remain behind bars until 2028, according to updated records from the U.S. prison authorities. The music executive, who was convicted earlier this year on racketeering, assault, and sex trafficking-related charges, is currently serving time at a federal correctional facility in New York. His sentencing followed months of explosive revelation, from leaked surveillance footage to testimonies by former associates that shook the entertainment world. Once celebrated as a face of Bad Boy Records, Diddy's downfall has become one of hip-hop's biggest scandals. Reports say he's now focused on rehabilitation programs while maintaining a low profile, with fans and industry insiders already speculating about whether he'll attempt